Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, I'm going to be talking about how all women can compare you to past partners, even if they didn't have any past partners, and you'll get to understand what I mean right as soon as I tell you to subscribe. My most recent subscriber episode was on the unique issues of men in sales and their relationship issues, and I have 160 others. Lots of stuff about sex, female arousal, oral sex, a lot of that stuff. And then also just a lot of relationship stuff, a lot of relationship dynamics, and ways that people interact, and advice on how to get out of some stuck places that you have. So anyway, please do subscribe, and that's only $8.99 a month, and you get like a lot of extra content. Okay, so as you know, I talk a lot about things that happen in the Facebook comments or comments on other social media. And it's a big thing on the internet because for guys who have low experience, this idea of being scared of a woman with high, quote, body count. And it's mostly young guys, but there's some older guys that don't have a lot of experience. And they're like obsessed with this idea that somehow, I had a real crazy one. Somebody said that the vagina gets bigger with every time a woman has sex. So therefore, it's like hammering a nail into a hole and the hole gets bigger. It was like real weird. I put it out it was funny. I put it out on Facebook. It was amusing, but just to clear that up, no, that doesn't happen. And many women in the comments say, wait till he hears about childbirth, which was pretty funny. So anyway, not only that though, but the guys explicitly say that you can't get a woman with too many past partners or any, because she'll compare you. She'll always compare you to them. Now, let me tell you something. I talk with a lot of women who grew up in purity culture, who grew up in strict upbringings. Then they got married and they only have one partner. Guess what? They know that they're unsatisfied too. They know that their sex life isn't good either, but here's the difference. They think it's all the guy's fault, right? And that if they had just gotten with Johnny from biology class that liked them in 10th grade, then, their sex life would be transcendental. And it's funny because when people want to stop other people from thinking, that's always due to anxiety. There's this magical thought process that if you could just clear out your partner's head from all information and all comparisons and all analysis, then they would be the perfect partner. But that kind of logic gets people to do abusive things, like to be, isolating and controlling and, to be overly restrictive and to basically ask the person to lie, by saying like, do you ever think about another man while we're in bed? Well, as I've talked about in other podcasts, like 100% of, human beings have thought that person is attractive in their life or have visualized sex. Well, not 100%. Some low libido women have not. But then those guys complain that the woman is low libido. So the same women that don't masturbate and have no fantasies are low libido women, right? Think about what you think of a man who never masturbated, never had fantasies. He's low libido, right? Or asexual. So it's the same thing. And so there are some women that just don't value sex at all, so whatever. They don't care. They never had another partner. It's fine. And the sex is nothing with nothing. And it's a big nothing burger. And a lot of women tell me, like, why do other people think about sex so much? Now, I don't know how the sex is in their marriage. I don't know if it would be different with somebody else, but a person who cannot even picture it being better is generally a lower libido person, which is another problem, right? For the same men, because they have the idea that you're going to get a virgin who never liked sex before, you never thinks about sex with another man ever, doesn't even notice when a guy is hot, and also she's a whore in the sack for you, And it's like totally crazy, right? It's like expecting a guy to make lots of money without ever working, or expecting a guy to be like a super social guy, but like he only prioritizes hanging out with you. Like these things can't happen, right? If somebody's an extrovert, they want to hang out with people. If somebody makes a lot of money, they got to be somewhere making a lot of money. And like if a woman enjoys sex, she's going to think about sex. It's not only sex with you. And then I say to the guys, don't you ever picture another woman? naked or anything. You see a hot woman and they're like, oh, well, no, that's different. That's different. I would never cheat. I'm like, man, she would never cheat either. We weren't even talking about cheating. We were just talking about that you want to like erase out everything in her brain that has to do with another man. Now, you may say, but what could she compare me to, if she never had sex before? She compares you to every romantic comedy, every sex scene in a book, every allusion to sex in a movie, every song. I mean, everything that's about sex, she thinks it could be better with somebody else because she has no idea that she would be a common denominator. If a woman has had a few boyfriends and she's learned some things and her sex, like she has a contribution, she learns that her sexuality is a part of the dynamic, then she knows that like you can make a sex life better. But many women, like young teenage girls that are just watching, TV and movies and have no sexual experience, the way that women think, young women or inexperienced women, is that you got to get a guy who is, quote, good in bed, and then your life is good in bed. Like, that's it. Like, there's nothing you have to do. And I used to not even really understand the level of doing nothing that some women did in bed until it was verbalized to me by many clients, like the woman literally just lays there with her eyes closed, literally like she's asleep. And that makes sense if you think of sex as something that the man does to you, that there's nothing that you do back. You've never learned anything. You've never had experiences. It's basically like from the wedding night on, or from whenever you got engaged or started dating seriously with one person, you just waited for things to happen. Now, of course, there's some people that are high libido women that, wait till marriage and they're religious or whatever, and then they have a good sex life. But do you think that a high libido woman never, ever, ever has a sex dream or pictures anybody else ever? Of course not. Same as you don't. As a 25-year-old guy or a 15-year-old guy, did you not have sex dreams constantly? What would have happened if you would have tried to erase your brain? Nothing. Some high-demand religions try to do this, try to tell you that your thoughts are bad. And a lot of guys have that mentality if they grew up in a religion like that, where even your thoughts are bad. Having thoughts be bad is like literally an OCD symptom. So when you grow up in a religion that basically gives you sexual OCD, that if you have a sex thought, then you're bad, then it's easy to bring that forward and assume that like your female partner is basically cheating if she has a thought about anybody else. Now, if she had past partners, is she going to compare you? I've already said she's going to compare you to like Magic Mike or like whoever she sees on TV in her mind, even if she doesn't have past partners. But if she does she compare you? Yeah, not like constantly, just like you don't compare anything constantly. I mean, unless you do. Sometimes, by the way, people project. So the guy is basically obsessed with that it used to be better with a past girlfriend, and he thinks about the past girlfriend all the time. And then he assumes that his wife is doing the same thing, and it's just literally projection. So think about that if that's you, and that's really something to explore in therapy, right? But do women compare? Like, kind of. Like, if somebody's much better than somebody else, then you would kind of remember that. And what most healthy women do is they try to create that. Whatever they remember with the college boyfriend, they try to create because they learned it. So they try to move it forward to the next partner. And the next, like whoever the husband is, too. There's some idea that women don't do their craziest shit with who they marry, but that isn't true unless they hated it. I think I did a video on that for sure. I don't know if I did a podcast on it explicitly, but yeah, women do everything that they like to do with their husband if they're sex positive, because that's supposed to be the most important sexual relationship of your life. So it's not like you would want, and you're trying to impress him. So it's not like you would want to leave things on the table that like could be used to make your relationship better, your sexual relationship. So if you learn something that you like from an ex-boyfriend, then that's what you're going to move forward into your relationship, and also you understand that there's things that you don't like. It's that you don't move those forward into next relationship, and you stop them usually in the previous relationship. So like, let's say so many guys are in the situation where the woman won't go down on them, but she says that she went down on an ex. Yeah, but she went down on an ex and she hated it. She hated it. She felt she was choking. She didn't like it. It was terrible. It smelled bad, whatever. And so she did it with him. She hated it. She felt forced, and she never did it again, and she didn't do it with you either. So fantasizing about that she had this different kind of turned on experience. There's no woman I've ever talked to that was like, oh yeah, this thing that I really like doing, that I enjoy, I'm just not doing it with my husband to fuck with his mind, It's like a manipulation strategy. Why? Like, if you like doing something, you do it with your husband. Now, there's many situations where after a woman ages, her body changes, her hormones drop, certain things hurt, certain things feel different. But if you are with a woman, so like if you met a woman, she's like 55 years old, and she says that she used to like anal sex and now she can't do anal sex, her body just hurts, she doesn't have the sex hormones, everything hurts, and the skin is thinner and it's just not going to work. Yeah, sure, that woman feels like a different person. But if there is a woman who enjoyed anal sex when she was 25 and you met her at 27, she's going to be doing that with you too. And if she doesn't and somehow tells you that she used to like it with Joe, but she doesn't like it with you because you're not good enough, that's an abusive situation. That's like an emotionally abusive situation. Like if a man told a woman, I used to write poems for my ex-girlfriend last year, but you're not pretty enough, so I don't write them for you. So that would just be not even in the realm of normative. That would be an unusual and emotionally abusive situation that I really do not hear about. So anyway, does she think about other men? Yes. Can you ever stop her from thinking about other men? No. Does every woman fantasize about another man when they're in bed? No. But sometimes you have a thought about anything. So women have thoughts about other women. That's like the most taboo. Well, it's not the most taboo, but there are many taboo things that women think about that are fantasies. And a lot of women think about other women too, or they think about just basically faceless strangers. Well, that's the most common. The most common isn't thinking about like your brother. It's like thinking about, a guy with no face, pretty much, just like a situation, like a dynamic. And this is really, really based on your erotic blueprints too. So you should go back and listen to the erotic blueprints podcast and post. And if a woman is just a sexual blueprint and she's just turned on by sex, and she's really not picturing anybody. She's just picturing bodies or genitals. If a woman is a kinky blueprint, she may be thinking about all manner of things. If she is a sensual blueprint, then she's thinking about a romantic scenario. Does it always involve you? No. I've talked about this. Some women, though, are very anxious and they will never think about, like they do that thought stopping, like with OCD. They're like, I'm thinking about another man, get it out of my head. But guess what else goes with it? What would happen, obviously, if you were having a sex fancy or you were jerking off or something, and then you said, oh no, bad, if I do this, I'm bad. Well, then you lose your erection, right? Obviously, that's what religion counts on when they train you that certain thoughts are bad, is that you'll lose your erection, you'll lose your desire, and you won't have premarital sex. So if you want your wife to engage in some sort of thought stopping or get scared to have thoughts, then her desire is going to go along with it. Now, remember that people compare people all the time. It's not just in bed. So I see frequently, for example, to the point that I even have a podcast about it, women compare the guy to their father. Not in bed, but outside of bed. Like, what does he do? Oh, my dad, he would have gone to Home Depot and hung those curtains for me already. Oh, my dad, he mowed the lawn every Sunday with no problems. My dad, he took care of my mother. My mother had back problems and my father rubbed her back every night. So many women compare the guy to the father. Are you also then going to look for a woman who has no father? If you're that terrified of being compared in any aspect, and you think you're going to win every single comparison, and if you don't, then she shouldn't be with you, then that is a style of super anxious attachment, preoccupied attachment, and often fearful avoidant attachment as well. People who have childhood trauma never felt like anybody's number one person. So then they never felt really prioritized, and they get obsessed with the woman being prioritizing them in every single domain, thinking that they're the cat's pajamas, like the smartest, the most handsome, the funniest, the best provider, the best dad, the best in bed, the biggest penis, all of it, and that's just not true. And what it makes you seem, if you get anxious or upset, if there's ever a comment about another human being, makes you seem super, super insecure. So it's not to say that it would be kind, and most women do not say, oh my God, look at that hot guy over there. I mean, some people get off on that. They get off on talking about who's hot and fantasies and all sorts of stuff. Obviously, I don't know if obviously, but to tell you, hot wife is like the most Googled porn term, the most porn that people look at is this idea of their wife screwing somebody else. But so a lot of people get off on that, but many people don't. So then, yeah, you wouldn't just be like, oh my God, look at that hot guy. He's so hot. If your husband doesn't like it, and most women wouldn't, just like the guy wouldn't say, whoa, look at the tits on her. It's just not appropriate if your spouse doesn't like it. But then, and I work with this with women too, by the way, women that are like, I saw my husband look at a girl. I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, how did he do it? Did he know you were looking? Like, what was he like? Whoa, she's hotter than you by a mile. She's like, no. It was like kind of this hot woman walked into the room and he looked up in a way that was different than if she wasn't hot. Like, congratulations, your husband has eyesight and he's heterosexual. 2 for 2, you win. It's almost like, how could he not? How could he not? How he's going to be so in love with you that what? His testosterone shuts off? It just doesn't make any sense. If you want a man who's straight, then he's going to notice when a woman is hot. Now, if he's staring at her to the point that you and other people can notice, that's disrespectful. Of course you shouldn't do that. And if your wife is staring at some guy who's hot, of course it's disrespectful. But that doesn't mean that you don't see that their eyes flicker and they notice. Of course they notice. If they're acting like a cartoon where their head, like where they rubberneck at the woman as she goes past and the eyes fall out onto the sidewalk, then obviously that's a respect problem. They are not, it's just like they shouldn't run up to her and ask for her phone number. You got to control your impulses. But marriages tend to go a lot better when both people realize the other person is human and that there are biological ways that a human acts and that you can't really get rid of somebody's desire in one way without getting rid of the whole thing. If you tell your wife that she is a bad person if she ever has a thought about another man, then she may well try to listen to you and scrub her thoughts clean, and that just gets rid of all of sex. It's like a lot of guys say that they do this. Like when they don't want to cheat, but they're having a sexless marriage, they basically, like I heard the analogy, turn off the faucet. They turn off the faucet of their sex drive. They're just trying to be a good guy, not cheat, and stay around. In a sexless marriage. And so they just kind of turn their desire knob off, and it isn't really a salient part of who they are anymore. They try not to really think about it. They don't want to feed the beast, and some of those guys are like, man, I wish there was a way to get rid of my sex drive. My life would be a lot easier. But when women, and there are women coupled with low sex drive men, when they are in that situation, they do the same thing. They basically try as much as they can to become asexual so that they could remain happy in the marriage. But women also do it if the guy tells them that various things that they're doing are like bad. You looked at that guy, or you did something in bed that I think I didn't teach you. Where'd you get that from? Or asking her all the time, what do you think of? Do you only think of me? Do you ever think of your ex? Do you think of this? Do you think of that? Eventually, it's just easier to turn off her desire altogether. And just not even be a sexual being. Because sex flourishes in an environment of play and open-mindedness and closeness and trust. And you can't trust a guy if he's always saying, do you ever think about this? Do you think about your past partner? And even if you were a virgin when you met, there's plenty of guys in that situation that harass her with, do you ever think about another man? And if you have enough of a sex drive, right, that you think about multiple people, as any man listening who's honest with himself knows, is you could picture a hot woman naked right now. It's like a white elephant. Do it. Picture a woman naked. And if that makes you too anxious, then you should be in therapy for sure. If even picturing a woman that isn't your wife naked makes you anxious, that's called like an OCD thing, where it's like scrupulosity OCD, it's a form of, where you have to be good, you have to be perfect, you have to be like above reproach, even your thoughts have to be clean. This is like dystopian novel level stuff, like Handmaid's Tale stuff, But also, I wanted to say, in terms of the comparisons, so remember that virgins also usually made out with other guys. As I've taught you, the making out part is like the best part for a lot of women. That's the foreplay part. So isn't it crazy that you can make your whole life around marrying a virgin, and then she remembers her best partner is like the boy that she made out with for hours? A lot of women are in that situation. And furthermore, and this, you could read the book This American Ex-Wife to get like a real example of how somebody feels like this. A lot of women who are trained to be, religious and not get, have sex before marriage, they end up regretting it. They change. Their value system changes and they say, why didn't I have fun when I was young? Why didn't I sleep with my high school boyfriend? Why didn't I do more than hold hands? And they want to go see, they want to go see what's in the world. Most women will not cheat, but many women will leave, because most women won't cheat. It's unethical. I've told you this about the low rates of women cheating and relatively low rates of men cheating. 87% of women don't cheat, 80% of men don't cheat. But that doesn't mean that the woman's not going to eventually realize maybe there's other things out there, particularly if the man acts controlling and anxious. Those are things that make him very difficult to be with. And then she does imagine, what could sex be like with another man? Because that is a more potent fantasy than, oh yeah, you know what, sex is kind of similar with everybody. I could teach them this or train them that, and then it'll be better. And then, if we have a connection, it'll be better. If I think they're attractive, it'll be better, etc. But a woman that's never had any other experience, then she's thinking of it like a, transformational event that she can't even picture, and she can't even picture how much better it's going to be with a different guy. And I have seen that situation. All right, well, I hope that this was an interesting way to think about things. Even if you're not one of the guys that's obsessed with body count, there are a lot of preoccupied attachment guys who listen to this and who struggle with the idea of a woman's past experience or lack thereof and what that entails and does not entail and the ramifications for your relationship, etc. And so hopefully this was interesting for you guys to think about. As always, if y'all are looking for a therapist or a coach, reach out to my practice, Best Life Behavioral Health. Some of these thoughts can be difficult to work on your own. And it's interesting to explore kind of who you are and how did you get to a place where you do feel very anxious about certain things that your wife may think or not think or do or not do. All right. Have a great day, guys. Talk to y'all soon.